I never thought the woman who brought me into this world could look me in the eyes and threaten to cut me out of her life forever. Sitting in my office that Tuesday afternoon, staring out at the busy street below, I kept replaying that phone conversation with my mom. 8 years of blood, sweat, and sleepless nights, building my graphic design company from nothing, and now she wanted me to just hand over a piece of it. The worst part, she wasn't even asking for herself. Before I dive into this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. Trust me, you are going to want to hear how this family drama unfolds and what I decided to do when my own mother chose her boyfriend over her son. Growing up, it was just me and my mom, Linda. She was 28 when I was born, and my biological father decided fatherhood wasn't for him when I turned 3. Just packed his bags one morning and never looked back. No phone calls, no birthday cards, nothing. But my mom, she stepped up in ways I will never forget. Linda worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. Mornings at the hospital as a receptionist, evenings waiting tables at this little diner downtown. I would do my homework in the back booth while she served customers, and she would help me with math problems during her breaks. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and that felt like enough. School became my escape and my mission. I knew education was our ticket to a better life, so I studied harder than anyone in my class. Art and design came naturally to me, and my teachers noticed. They helped me apply for scholarships, and by some miracle I landed a full ride to study graphic design at the State University. College opened up a whole new world. I spent 4 years learning everything I could about design, marketing, and business. After graduation, I worked for several design agencies, learning the industry from the ground up. The pay wasn't great, but I was determined to save every penny I could. I lived in a tiny studio apartment, drove a beat-up Honda Civic, and ate ramen noodles more nights than I care to admit. But I had a plan. 8 years ago, with $15,000 in savings and more hope than sense, I decided to start my own graphic design company. I found a 400-square-foot office space downtown. Nothing fancy, just 4 walls and decent internet. For the first few months, I was everything: designer, salesman, accountant, and janitor. Those first 3 years nearly broke me. There were months when I could barely scrape together enough to pay the office rent, let alone my own bills. I remember one particularly rough patch where I lived off peanut butter sandwiches for 2 weeks straight because I had spent my grocery money on new software the company needed. But slowly, things started to turn around. Word of mouth brought me steady clients, and my reputation for quality work and meeting deadlines began to spread. By year 4, I was able to hire my first employee. By year 6, I had a team of 6 people and had moved into a much larger space. That's also when Derek Thompson entered our lives. Mom had been single for so long that when she started talking about this man she met on a dating website, I was genuinely happy for her. Derek was 45, worked as a manager at a big electronics store, and from what I could see, he treated my mom well. He was charming, well-dressed, and seemed genuinely interested in making her happy. At first, I really liked Derek. He would come to family dinners and ask thoughtful questions about my business. He seemed impressed by what I had built and would often say things like, "It's amazing what you can accomplish when family sticks together." He made my mom laugh in ways I hadn't seen since I was a kid. After 8 months of dating, Derek moved in with my mom. Around that same time, my company was finally turning a decent profit, and I was able to start paying myself a real salary instead of just scraping by. Then came the news that changed everything. 4 years ago, my mom called me with excitement in her voice that I hadn't heard in years. At 52, she was pregnant. I was shocked, honestly, but also thrilled. The idea of having a little brother or sister after being an only child for 30 years felt surreal but wonderful. Tyler was born on a crisp October morning, and the moment I held him in the hospital, I knew I would do anything to protect this little guy. He was perfect with these big blue eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. I bought him clothes, toys, and started a small college fund with whatever extra money I could spare. Derek seemed like a proud father, but I started noticing something in those early months after Tyler's birth. He would make comments about the future, about making sure Tyler was set up for success. At first, I thought it was just normal parent anxiety, but the frequency of these comments began to increase. "You know, Clifford," Derek said one day when Tyler was about 6 months old, "this little guy is going to need security when he grows up. It's important that family looks out for family." I agreed, of course. I loved Tyler and wanted the best for him. But something about the way Derek said it made me slightly uncomfortable, like there was a hidden meaning I wasn't catching. By my 6th year in business, the company was thriving beyond my wildest dreams. We hit $850,000 in revenue, and I had expanded the team to include 3 designers, an account manager, a marketing specialist, and an office manager. We moved into a space 3 times larger than our previous office, complete with a proper conference room and a break area where the team could relax. The real breakthrough came when I landed contracts with 2 major local corporations. These deals guaranteed steady revenue for the next 2 years and established us as one of the premier design agencies in the city. I was proud of what we had built, and for the first time since starting the company, I felt financially secure. That's when Derek's visits to the office began. He would drop by maybe once a week, always under the pretense of just checking in or bringing coffee for the team. But I noticed he would linger, asking detailed questions about our revenue, our client contracts, and our growth projections. At first, I thought he was just being supportive, maybe even a little proud of what his girlfriend's son had accomplished. But then the comments about Tyler started getting more specific. You know, Clifford, Tyler's only 4, but he's already showing signs of business acumen. Maybe you should consider what role he might play in your company when he's older, Derek said one afternoon, watching Tyler stack blocks in the office play area I had set up for him. I laughed it off. Derek, he's 4 years old. He's got plenty of time to figure out what he wants to do with his life. But Derek persisted. I'm just saying it might be wise to start thinking about establishing some kind of trust fund from the company profits, to ensure Tyler's future is secure. The suggestion made me uncomfortable. Tyler was my little brother, and I loved him dearly, but the idea of tying a 4-year-old's future to my business felt premature and frankly inappropriate. I politely explained that Tyler was too young for such decisions and that there would be plenty of time to discuss his future when he was older. Derek nodded, but I could see he wasn't satisfied with my response. Around this time, I started noticing changes in my mom's behavior too. Linda began having conversations with me about family responsibility and how successful people should lift up their loved ones. These weren't the kind of conversations we used to have. My mom had always been proud of my independence and self-reliance. "Sweetheart, you have done so well for yourself," she said during one of our weekly phone calls. "Do not you think it's time to start thinking about Tyler's future too?" When I gave her the same explanation I had given Derek about Tyler being too young, she sighed heavily. "I just want both my boys to be taken care of. Is that too much to ask?" The guilt in her voice was unmistakable, and it hit me right in the chest. This was my mom, the woman who had sacrificed everything to raise me alone. But something about the conversation felt orchestrated, like she was reading from a script that Derek had written. Things came to a head during Thanksgiving dinner that year. We were all gathered around the table, Derek carving the turkey, my mom fussing over Tyler and me, just enjoying what I thought was a normal family meal. But after dessert, when Tyler was napping in the living room, Derek cleared his throat and looked directly at me. "Clifford, I think it's time we had a serious conversation about Tyler's future." He began, his tone more formal than I had ever heard it. "What do you mean?" I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly what was coming. "I think you should consider giving Tyler a stake in your company. Nothing crazy, maybe 25%. He could be a silent partner until he comes of age." The room went quiet except for the sound of Tyler's gentle breathing from the next room. "It's not about the money, son," Derek continued, and I noticed he called me son, something he had never done before. "It's about family legacy. Tyler deserves a piece of what this family built." I felt my jaw tighten. "Derek, with all due respect, I built this company with my own hands, my own money, and my own sleepless nights. Tyler had nothing to do with it." Derek's expression hardened. "Family should stick together, Clifford. What you're saying sounds pretty selfish to me." My mom jumped in before I could respond. "Clifford, honey, Derek has a point. We're all family here." I looked at my mom, this woman who had taught me the value of hard work and independence, and I barely recognized her. The conversation ended awkwardly with me making an excuse about having to review some client work and leaving earlier than usual. Driving home that night, I felt a knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. Something had fundamentally shifted in my family dynamic, and I wasn't sure how to fix it. Over the next 6 months, the pressure intensified in ways I never could have imagined. What started as occasional suggestions became a full-blown campaign to convince me to hand over a piece of my company to a 5-year-old. Every phone call with my mom somehow steered toward Tyler's future. Every family gathering included at least one conversation about how successful families share their wealth. Derek became bolder in his suggestions, even going so far as to bring Tyler to my office and introduce him to my employees as the future co-owner. I remember the day my office manager, Sarah, pulled me aside and asked boss, "Is there something we should know about the company structure?" Changing Derek's comments to my staff were starting to create confusion and concern among my team. The violation of my professional space infuriated me, but when I confronted Derek about it, he acted like I was being unreasonable. "I'm just proud of what this family has accomplished," he said with that practiced smile. "Tyler should know about his brother's success." But Tyler wasn't just learning about success. Derek was filling his 5-year-old head with ideas about ownership and partnership that no kindergartner should be thinking about. I would hear Tyler telling his friends at the playground that he owned part of a big company, and it broke my heart. The situation reached a boiling point when Tyler got sick. It was a particularly bad case of pneumonia that landed him in the hospital for 5 days. The medical bills came to over $12,000, and while their insurance covered most of it, there was still a significant out-of-pocket expense. Without hesitation, I offered to pay the entire amount. Tyler was my little brother, and taking care of family was something I had always done gladly. But Derek's response shocked me. "This is exactly what I'm talking about, Clifford," he said over the phone while Tyler was still recovering. "If Tyler was a partner in your company, this wouldn't be a financial strain on anyone. This would just be a business expense." I was stunned. "Derek, I'm happy to help with medical expenses. That's what family does." But what happens next time? Derek's voice was getting louder. "What happens when Tyler needs something bigger? College tuition, a house down payment. Tyler needs long-term security, not charity from his brother." The word charity hit me like a slap. I wasn't giving charity. I was taking care of my family the way my mom had taught me. But Derek was reframing every act of love as inadequate, every gesture of support as temporary. 3 weeks later, Derek called and asked me to come over for what he called a family meeting. I should have known something was wrong when I walked in and saw legal documents spread across the dining room table. "We've done some research," Derek announced, gesturing to the papers. "We've consulted with a lawyer about the best way to transfer 30% of your company shares to Tyler." My blood ran cold. They had gone behind my back to a lawyer without even telling me. "We're not asking for much." Clifford, Derek continued, his voice taking on a tone I had never heard before. "Just 30%. Tyler can be a silent partner until he turns 18, and then he can decide if he wants to be more involved." I picked up the documents and scanned them quickly. They were real, professionally prepared legal papers for transferring company ownership. The level of planning that had gone into this was staggering. "You had these drawn up without talking to me first?" I asked, looking between Derek and my mom. "We wanted to have a serious proposal," my mom said quietly. "We thought it would be easier if we had everything ready." "Easier for whom?" I set the papers down and looked directly at Derek. "This is my company, Derek. I built it from nothing, and I get to decide what happens to it." Derek's mask finally slipped completely. "Then maybe it's time for you to choose between your business and your family," he said, his voice cold and threatening. Before I could respond, my mom started crying. "Clifford, I raised you by myself," she said through her tears. "I sacrificed everything for you. I worked 2 jobs. I gave up dating for years. I gave up my own dreams so you could have yours." Her words cut deep because they were true. She had sacrificed for me, and I had never forgotten it. "All we are asking is for you to secure Tyler's future," she continued. "If you cannot do this one thing," Derek finished her sentence, "then maybe Linda and Tyler don't need someone so selfish in their lives." I looked at my mom, waiting for her to contradict him, to defend me, to remember the son she had raised to be independent and strong. Instead, she nodded slowly. "If you do not sign these papers by Friday," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "do not bother coming to Tyler's birthday party next month, or any family gathering ever again." Derek leaned back in his chair with a satisfied look. "Choose wisely, son, your business or your family. You cannot have both if you are going to be this greedy." I sat there for a moment looking at these people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, who were now giving me an ultimatum that would fundamentally change everything I had worked for. I stood up, gathered my jacket, and headed for the door. "I need time to think," I said. "You have until Friday," Derek called after me. "5 days, Clifford. Do not make this harder than it needs to be." I spent the next 2 days in a fog of disbelief and heartbreak. The people I loved most in the world had just threatened to erase me from their lives unless I handed over nearly a third of my company to a 5-year-old. The manipulation was so blatant, so cruel, that I kept thinking I must have misunderstood something. But I hadn't misunderstood anything. By Thursday morning, I had made my decision. I called my lawyer and asked him to set up a trust fund for Tyler, $50,000 that would grow over time and be available for his education and future needs. This trust fund would be completely separate from my business, funded from my personal savings, and would demonstrate my genuine care for Tyler's welfare without compromising the company I had built. Then I sat down and wrote the longest, most difficult letter of my life. I explained to my mom and Derek that I loved Tyler more than they could possibly know, but that I would not be manipulated into giving away what I had built with my own hands. I detailed the trust fund I had established and explained that this was my way of providing for Tyler's future without jeopardizing the livelihoods of my 6 employees or the stability of the business. I wrote about how disappointed I was that they had chosen manipulation and ultimatums over honest conversation. I told them that real love doesn't come with conditions or threats. And I made it clear that while I hoped we could repair our relationship someday, I would not sacrifice my principles or my business to appease their demands. I sent the email on Friday morning, exactly 5 days after their ultimatum. The response was swift and brutal. Within hours, both Derek and my mom had blocked my phone number. By the weekend, I was hearing from relatives that Derek and my mom were telling people I had abandoned my family and chosen greed over blood. Some family members reached out to get my side of the story, but others simply stopped talking to me altogether. Tyler's 6th birthday party happened without me. I drove past the park where they were holding it, saw the balloons and the little kids playing, and felt a piece of my heart break off and fall away. But I didn't stop. I couldn't let them see how much it was destroying me. The first 3 months were the hardest. I threw myself into work, staying at the office until 9 or 10 every night, taking on projects I normally would have delegated. My team started to worry about me, but I couldn't explain what was happening without breaking down completely. Then, 6 months after I had sent that email, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. "Clifford, it's your Aunt Mary." Mary was my mom's younger sister, someone I had always been close to but hadn't heard from since the family drama started. "I need to tell you something," she said, and her voice was shaking. "About Derek." What she told me changed everything. Derek had been planning this for over a year, she explained. He had been bragging to his friends about hitting the jackpot when he started dating my mom. He had specifically targeted her because he knew about my business success, and he had been strategizing about how to get a piece of it since Tyler was born. But that wasn't the worst part. "Clifford, Derek has been borrowing money from your mom to invest in cryptocurrency," Mary continued. "He's lost over $60,000 of her retirement savings, and she doesn't even know it yet. Derek had been desperate to recoup his losses, and my company had looked like his salvation. He had manipulated my mom's genuine love for both her sons to serve his own financial interests." "I have proof," Mary said. "Bank statements, text messages, where he brags about his plan. Your mom has no idea what kind of man she's been defending." I felt sick to my stomach. My mom, who had worked 2 jobs for years to provide for me, was being financially exploited by a man she trusted. And Tyler, innocent Tyler, was being used as a pawn in Derek's scheme. But even with this information, I knew there was no going back to the way things were. The betrayal ran too deep. My mom had chosen Derek's manipulation over her own son. She had threatened to disown me for refusing to be extorted. Even if she learned the truth about Derek, the damage to our relationship felt irreparable. Over the following months, I began the slow process of healing. I started seeing a therapist who helped me understand that setting boundaries with family members isn't selfish, it's necessary. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during the family crisis. I focused on building stronger relationships with my employees, who had become like a second family to me. The trust fund for Tyler remained intact, growing steadily, I added to it every year on his birthday, even though I couldn't celebrate with him. I hoped that someday, when he was old enough to understand what had happened, he would know that I had never stopped caring about him. My business continued to thrive. The following year, we hit $1.2 million in revenue and expanded our team again. We won several industry awards and established ourselves as one of the top design agencies in the region. Every success felt bittersweet, knowing that I couldn't share it with my mom, but it also felt earned in a way that nothing had before. I learned that real family supports your dreams instead of trying to steal them. I learned that love without conditions is the only kind worth having. And I learned that sometimes protecting what you have built means losing people you thought you couldn't live without. The hardest lesson was accepting that I might never have a relationship with Tyler again. He was growing up hearing one version of this story, a version where his big brother chose money over family. Maybe someday he would seek out the truth, or maybe he wouldn't. Either way, I had to make peace with the possibility that I might always be the villain in his story. But I also learned something else. Losing yourself to keep others happy is a price no one should ever have to pay. 6 months ago, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of Tyler at his school science fair, standing next to a volcano project, grinning from ear to ear. No message, just the photo. I don't know who sent it, maybe Aunt Mary or another family member, but I saved that picture and look at it sometimes when I miss him. Tyler is almost 10 now, tall for his age, with that same mischievous smile he had as a toddler. I wonder if he ever asks about me, if he remembers the uncle who used to buy him toys and take him to the zoo. I hope someday he will understand that walking away from those legal papers wasn't about rejecting him, it was about protecting something that could provide security for our whole family, including him for years to come. As for my mom and Derek, I heard through Aunt Mary that their relationship has become strained. Derek's financial irresponsibility eventually came to light just as Mary had predicted. But by then, the damage was done to more than just bank accounts. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had signed those papers. Would Derek have been satisfied with 30%, or would there have been more demands down the line? Would my employees have trusted a company where a child held nearly a third of the ownership? Would Tyler have grown up with a healthy understanding of work and achievement? Or would he have learned that success should be handed to you rather than earned? I will never know the answers to those questions, and that's probably for the best. What I do know is this: real love doesn't demand that you sacrifice your principles or your security to prove it. Real family celebrates your success instead of trying to profit from it. And sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to enable someone's worst impulses, even when that someone is your own mother. The trust fund for Tyler has grown to over $100,000 now. When he turns 18, he will have access to money for college, for starting his own business, or for whatever dreams he chooses to pursue. It won't be a third of my company, but it will be something he can truly call his own. Something that comes with no strings attached and no family drama. Maybe that's the greatest gift I can give him, the knowledge that he doesn't need to manipulate or threaten anyone to secure his future. He just needs to work hard, stay true to his values, and build something he can be proud of. Sometimes protecting what you have built means losing people you love, but losing yourself to keep them, that's a price I will never pay again. What would you have done in my situation? Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting what you worked hard to build? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and do not forget to hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Subscribe for more real-life stories about family business and the tough choices we all have to make. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to set boundaries even with people you love. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be manipulated even by family. Until next time, take care of yourselves and protect what matters most.